Welcome back. They call her the AOC of Tennessee, but resurfaced audio shows she has some rather strong and negative feelings about her city.
I hate the city. I hate the bachelorettes. I hate the pedal taverns. I hate country music. I hate all of the things that make Nashville apparently an it city to the rest of the country, but I hate it.
She tried to walk it back, but it didn't go so well.
As a Nashvilleian, I think we all get a little annoyed with the tourists that come to town, but that doesn't mean I love my city. In fact, instead of sitting on the sideline and complaining about it, I decided to run for office.
And she didn't walk back this 2019 op-ed, calling the state and the legislature that she works for racist. Then just last year, she said this about prayer groups in the state legislature.
As someone who is more secular, I have a hard time when religion is at the core of everything we do in the legislature. And so, for example, on the House floor, we say a prayer every session. Some committees open up with prayer. We also stand for the pledge. And there are also prayer groups in the legislature that meet routinely. There are Christian pastors that have a lot of say and proximity to power in the legislature and dictate a lot of what the power players do. And it is uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable by prayer. Wow. And apparently she has some interesting thoughts about motherhood as well.
My therapist always asks me to transcribe my dreams when they happen. And the recurring dream I've had is standing up in a cafeteria full of women and saying, I don't want children, I want power.
Boy. So we got to talk about a very, very, very interesting special election that is coming up in Tennessee's 7th district. This race is between radical socialist Afin Ben. I think that's how you pronounce her name. Maybe I got it wrong. I know somebody in the comment section is going to say you got it wrong. And Matt Van Epps, the GOP representative, going up against, again, a radical socialist in Tennessee in a district that is ruby red, or at least has been historically. But the liberal media, they're trying to write their own reality, okay? And they're basically claiming that this race is going to be a lot closer than it should be. And I'm not saying that it's not possible. I'm just telling you that this is what the liberal media is saying based off polling, and I want to talk about it because this race that is happening on December 2nd, so I just want to make sure everybody's clear, is happening on December 2nd. So when you're watching this video, it's going to be the day of, okay, that this election is happening. Will tell us something, right? And I'm going to explain to you guys exactly how to evaluate this race. So I want to go ahead and get into this because this woman is one of the most radical Democrats to run for office that we've had in a long time, and that's really saying something because we've seen some radicals, but she probably is the most radical that I've seen in a long time.
Crime is, of course, also was a major issue in the presidential election, and I know there are some old posts. You've been asked about those old posts a number of times. My question for you today is whether more money for cops on the streets in the district you hope to represent would help fight crime. Would you like more money for more cops on the streets in your district?
So those past comments were at a time when I was a private citizen, as an activist and organizer, and now as a Tennessee lawmaker, I represent 40,000 individual opinions and political thought.
Right,
and
so what do you think now? Would more money for cops be good or bad?
I think it depends on what the community wants. And so I've worked with communities, at least my constituents, want to ensure that there is investment in their community for community safety, community protection, mental health services. And that's what I'm hearing from at least my constituents.
She also tried to blame Republicans for inflation.
If you are not okay with the chaos at our federal government level, and if you are upset with the cost of living and the increase in inflation, then I am your candidate. I'm your candidate.
Well, she seems to be ignoring one key detail yet again when it comes to inflation. Prices soared under Biden. You see it there. She supported Biden, not President Trump. And in fact, it's not much of a contest. President Trump does better on everything from groceries, gas, and even overall inflation. Joining me now is the man endorsed by President Trump, Republican Tennessee congressional candidate Matt Van Epps. Man, Matt, your opponent here, Afton Bain, prayer, motherhood, taking a shot at the city she wants to represent, music. And yet Emerson says this is a 2-point race. Do you feel this is a 2-point race?
Well, good morning, Kaylee. So honored to be with you. No, we're out in front right now, and we're going to win decisively on December 2nd. I'm asking all Republicans and anyone who doesn't want a radical socialist in office to vote for us on December 2nd. And the distinction here could not be more clear. I'm a Christian, a husband, a father, an America First conservative, and a combat veteran. I was an Army helicopter pilot, worked in small business here in Nashville, served in Tennessee state government, and still serving in the Tennessee Army National Guard. And we will win decisively on December 2nd when everybody puts their jersey on and gets on the field and stands behind us.
It is Election Day in Tennessee tomorrow, a special election for Tennessee's 7th congressional district. This is a heavily Republican district. So why are Republicans having to spend so much money there? CNN chief data analyst Harry Enton is here with the details. When I say this is a Republican district, Harry, how Republican?
It is a ruby red Republican district, John Berman. What are we talking about? Well, why don't we just take a look at the past 3 presidential elections in the great state of Tennessee, in the 7th district, in that great state. Look at Trump's margins. In 2016, he won it by 17 points. 2020, 15 points. And then in 2024, Johnny B, takes the cake here. We get Donald Trump winning by 22 points. That's why I say even a close GOP win tomorrow is a bad sign for them, because what we're dealing with is a district that all 3 times that Donald Trump was on the ballot in the general election, he won it by double digits. And last time, he broke the 20-point margin barrier.
I would say if you had to look at the congressional map, any district that Donald Trump won by 22 points, you would say, you know, you've got like nearly a 100% chance of winning if you're running for Congress there. But what are the prediction markets saying right now?
Yeah, what are we talking about in terms of the prediction market odds? Look, the Democrat has a 15% chance of winning in that race, okay? A 15% chance, which ain't nothing in a district that Donald Trump won by 22 points. But here I think is the key nugget on this side of the ledger, and that is a GOP win by under 10 points. There's a 68% chance of that. So there is a more than 2/3 chance that the Republican candidate, yes, they win, but they win by a significantly lower margin than Donald Trump. We're talking about double digits, smaller. We're talking about a huge shift to the left. We're talking about, when you add these two together, we're talking about a more than 80% chance that there is a clear double-digit shift to the left, and a 15% chance the Democrat actually wins in a district that Donald Trump won by 22 points. That just shows you how bad the environment is for Republicans right now, that the Democrat has any sort of a chance in this district.
Yeah, so we're going to see what actually happens, okay? And the reason why I'm doing this video is to remind people, if you live in that district, that you got to vote, right? And the reason why is because Democrats are pissed off. They're pissed off, and you have people who are voting for Democrats because they hate Trump. You have people who are more independent leaning that also are not necessarily happy with the mass deportations. They may not necessarily be satisfied with the progress on affordability, right, and the economy. I think a lot of this is irrational, to be honest with you. And I don't understand why anybody would vote for a socialist when we just experienced probably the most socialist / progressive administration that we've seen since FDR, right? And that was a complete and total disaster. So for people to go from that, right, Biden and Kamala Harris, to Trump, and then back to the far left, radical socialism, it just doesn't make sense, right? And it's extremely frustrating, but this is democracy, right? And yeah, I want to talk about it because this woman should not be competitive at all, okay? Her positions are so radical that even CNN is like, yo, the stuff that you believe is kind of crazy, right? And this interview right here is exactly what I'm talking about. And again, the idea that this woman could come close to winning in this district really is a problem. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this. And I want to talk more about the possible results of this election tomorrow and what that could mean. But most importantly, I want to break down why this woman's positions are nonsensical. And she's not going to help the American people solve the problems that they voted Trump in the office to solve that the American people have not given Trump enough time to actually do. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this.
Speaking of that, I mean, because we are seeing both sides sending these big name surrogates in these final hours before Tuesday, and tomorrow, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is holding a tele rally for you. Are you in line with her ideologically?
Like I said, I think that there is a strain of the Democratic Party that cares about holding corporations accountable and lowering costs for working families. And my politics are one in alignment of that. I've been, as a state legislator, I've worked to eliminate Tennessee's regressive grocery tax. As an organizer, I work to make healthcare more affordable in the state of Tennessee. And so I think those are the Democratic leaders and candidates that I really resonate with, are those that are trying to lower costs for working families.
Yeah, because Trump has been calling you, quote, the AOC of Tennessee. So, I mean, aren't you just feeding into that narrative by appearing with her?
Like I said, we're really grateful for the support across the political spectrum. And if you and for your listeners, the Teletown Hall also features former Vice President Al Gore, who is a Tennessee legend. So I look at it as iconic that you have Democrats from all political stripes joining in on this moment and saying, we are standing up to what is happening in Washington, and we want to be part of the solution rather than the problem.
Yeah, because some of those you are campaigning with, including AOC, have called for ICE to be abolished. You have been sharply critical of the ICE raids in Nashville, but do you think that ICE should be abolished?
Like I said, I've got 48 hours to flip this congressional district and have been dogged about the message of affordability. And that's not what I'm hearing in the district. What I'm hearing is people, especially rural voters, are driving 4 hours to a hospital without care. We've got veterans that are going without, care because the VA hasn't been fully funded. And so these aren't the issues that I'm hearing about in the district. What I am hearing about is that grocery costs are high, utility bills are high, rent is high, and there's no kind of end in sight. And so my message has been one to lower costs, and I think it's resonating across the district, which is why this race is.
Yeah. So this is what really frustrates me about this affordability conversation, right? In relation to Trump and Democrats. This is what really is frustrating. Democrats are the ones that are responsible for making the country so unaffordable. It's almost as if people have like a short-term memory. Do you not remember the last 4 years that Democrats, because they decided to spend trillions of dollars along with shutting down the country, that is what created the affordability crisis in the first place? And here's the crazy thing about it, right? You can say, well, that was Democrats, but see, these are socialists. These people are more further left than the Democrats. Well, see, what people don't understand is that if AOC and Bernie could have it their way, they would have spent $5 to $10 trillion. I documented this at the time when Democrats were pushing their stimulus packages. Bernie and AOC, they wanted to spend, again, 5 to 10 trillion. The spending is the reason why we currently have the affordability crisis. That's the reason why. I don't understand what people don't understand about that. Okay? Democrats caused the affordability crisis. So why the hell would you vote back in Democrats? Or why would you believe that Democrats or a socialist could solve the affordability crisis when they're the ones that are responsible? And again, that's why I'm so frustrated by this, because it's irrational, especially with independents, right? I'm very frustrated with so-called independents because it's almost like people just don't remember the last 4 years. Trump has only been in office for 8 to 9 months. He hasn't had enough time to do anything, right? He hasn't had enough time. Trump's big, beautiful bill, his signature economic piece of legislation, it takes time. People haven't even got their tax returns yet. He gave everybody a tax cut. It took 2 years for the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017 to actually really be felt within the economy. And we didn't get inflation because of it. We have lower inflation now than we had under Biden, than we were averaging under Biden. We have lower inflation today than we had under Biden. But for whatever reason, that's his narrative now. Trump is the reason why prices are going up. And I'm like, prices were going up before he got in office. We went over the labor reports, the job reports, where you've had, over 1 million jobs in Biden's last year that all of a sudden, they didn't really exist. That the Biden administration, they were cooking the books on the jobs reports to try to make it seem like Biden's economy was better than it was. So President Trump inherited a terrible labor market. He inherited Biden's inflation. And people think that in 8 to 9 months, Trump should fix that, right? That can be fixed in 8 to 9 months when he just passed his signature piece of economic legislation about 3 or 4 months ago. Again, we haven't even hit tax season yet. Haven't even hit tax season. But you know what I think it is? You know what I think it is? Real talk. You know what I think it is? I think people want stimulus checks, right? That's what I believe. I think people, a lot of these so-called independents, the low propensity voter, they voted for Trump because they thought they were going to get stimmies. I really do believe that. And that's why stimmies are on the table. Going into the midterms, I'm convinced that they're definitely going to do it. Because I think that's what the people want. They want stimulus check, right? That's what they want. Because in my mind, if you're a Republican, there's no reason to abandon the president 8 to 9 months into his administration when he's essentially done almost everything that he promised, right? Or put it this way, he's put in a good faith effort to do the things that he's promised, especially when it comes to immigration. Immigration alone should have GOP voters out in droves voting for the president, supporting the president. Because again, like we saw with the economy, look at what happened under Biden and Kamala Harris. Wide open border, woke lunacy. Do people really want to go back to that? Do people really want to go back to that? So again, my point is that socialism is not the answer. Socialism is not going to solve affordability. You don't go back to socialism because the president hasn't had enough time for his policies to really kick in and to really feel the effects throughout the economy. That's not what you do. But apparently that's how some people are thinking, which to me, it just blows my mind because it doesn't make any sense.
So close.
But you have been critical of the past on these ICE raids. Do you think all these ICE raids in Nashville should stop?
I mean, it's been hard. I'm in my district, I represent a Hispanic community, and I'm also a social worker. And so prior to that ICE incident, I was out knocking doors in my district, talking to Hispanic constituents who said that we are concerned about the overreach of our federal government. And so
and that's what I try to tell people. This is what I'm trying to tell you. A lot of these liberal Hispanics are pissed, and they're voting because of it. So we got to get out and vote. Just like they got to get out and vote because they're voting because they're pissed off about the deportations. And that's something that Republican voters have to acknowledge. Like, that's a reality, is that when you actually execute on the agenda, when the president does what he says that he's going to do, and when he executes, yeah, people are going to get pissed about it. They're getting pissed because they understand the reality is that when you have sanctuary cities who refuse to cooperate with the government, yeah, we're going to have to do controversial things in order to enforce the law. But unfortunately, voters don't realize that it's not the fault of the federal government who's trying to enforce the law. It's the fault of these sanctuary cities that are obstructing the federal government from enforcing the law. Because if they worked with the federal government like they worked with Obama, when Obama was in office, then you wouldn't see all the stuff that we see, right? ICE wouldn't have to do what they're doing. But they have to do what they're doing because Democrat cities refuse to cooperate with the government, with the federal government. And that's why a lot of this is so frustrating to me. Because when you understand this stuff, you realize, wow, people are just extremely irrational, right? I really don't understand it. I don't get it. Everybody knew that voted for Trump that he was going to execute on the mass deportations. Democrats had an opportunity to cooperate. Tom Homan went on network after network after network telling Democrats, either cooperate or we're going to have to go into the neighborhoods. We don't want to go into the neighborhoods. We don't want to round up a bunch of people who are here illegally, who haven't committed violent crimes. We don't want to do that, but we're going to have to do that if Democrats don't cooperate. Democrats chose not to cooperate. So now Democrats have to find out. These liberal cities got to find out because we're not going to not enforce the law because Democrats don't cooperate. That's not how it works. But I just think there are a lot of people who don't understand that. They don't understand that what you're seeing from ICE is not the fault of the federal government. It's the fault of Democrats who refuse to cooperate. And because they refuse to cooperate, we got to take extreme measures. It is what it is.
As a lawmaker, I represent 60,000 voters. As a congresswoman, I'll represent 400, 700,000 voters. And so I take into consideration the real issues that these voters and my constituents are living with. One of which is they don't want their federal government overreaching in their communities.
Notice she didn't answer the question about whether or not ICE should be abolished because she's a radical. Of course she believes that ICE should be abolished. Of course she believes that.
Your past tweets have gotten attention, including in 2020 when you posted deleted a post that said, quote, "Good morning, especially to the 54% of Americans that believe burning down a police station is justified." And another, you appear to supportive of a demand to, quote, defund the police. Do you regret posting those comments?
Yeah, I said that during the George Floyd moment when the entire country was demanding accountability and safer policing. And what I've always believed is that communities need investment. They need investment to be safe. They need investment in mental health responders, first responders, and youth programs to reduce that crime. And I was a private citizen back then, and now I'm a lawmaker. Like I said, I represent 60,000 voters with diverse political opinions. But what I hear from families across the 7th District is that they want safe neighborhoods and they want to lower the cost of living, and that's where my priorities are.
So should you not have posted those?
Like I said, I'm a lawmaker now, and so I wouldn't post things like that now and haven't because I've definitely matured. And I think that speaks to the moment as well that I've spent 10 years organizing in a state to ensure that communities are able to access investment for community response and safety. And I'll do the same as the next congresswoman for the 7th congressional district.
So she can't answer the question. Simple question. Do you still believe in defunding police? The answer to that question should be no. Do you believe in abolishing ICE? The answer to that question should be no. But what she really believes is that we shouldn't have law and order. We shouldn't enforce federal law. We shouldn't enforce local law. And again, this is why I ask people, did you forget what we went through over the last 4 years? Did you forget the crime and the chaos that happened in these liberal cities as a result of this ideology of defund the police? Did you forget what we went through? Why would you want to go back to that? Seriously. I don't understand how anybody can think that today is worse today than it was 2 years ago. In 2022 and 2023. In the middle of the Biden administration, I think we were much worse off during those years than we are today. But for whatever reason, people are voting to go back to that. This is why I want to believe that GOP voters, we're just content, right? We're not as motivated to get out and vote as angry Democrats, right? The people who are voting for these Democrats, they're super angry because they hate Trump. They're voting out of emotion, right? Some of these independents, these left-wing independents, they're voting out of emotion. And it's not a real reflection of reality, right? It's more so, okay, these people are emotional. Because, I'm not entirely sure why anybody would vote to go back to the last 4 years. I don't get it. I don't understand it. The people voted for Trump. Trump won the 2024 election because of a rejection of that. And you mean to tell me 8 months in, people want to go back? It's not rational, right? That's all I'm saying.
I want to ask you about an attack line from Republicans, because this is a comment you made in 2020 about Nashville. It's gotten a lot of attention in your race. Let's listen to this.
I hate the city. I hate the bachelorettes. I hate the pedal taverns. I hate country music. I hate all of the things that make Nashville apparently an it city to the rest of the country, but I hate it.
I know you said those comments were taken out of context, but I want to ask you about it because I'm wondering, do you think it was a mistake to say that?
Once again, I was a private citizen. Nashville is my home. Do I roll my eyes at the bachelorette parties and the pedal taverns that are blocking my access to my house? Yeah, every Nashvilleian does. But this race has always been about something bigger. It's about families across Middle Tennessee that are getting crushed by rising prices, while Washington politicians and billionaires argue about.
Yeah. Again, she doesn't have any solutions. That's what people got to understand. These socialists do not have the solution. So with that being said, I don't know what the outcome of the election is going to be tomorrow. My gut feeling tells me that the Republican is going to win. Now, how much does he win by? That is the question. I'm hoping that he wins by more than 10 points, right? If he wins by more than 10 points, then that'll be good, right? If he wins by less than 10 points or he loses, then that's a problem. That's a big problem because, again, this is a ruby red district, and this should be an easily winnable race. The problem is that, again, I think that Trump voters are, again, content, are not motivated to vote for whatever reason. And these leftists are very motivated to vote. And that is what's driving them to the polls, right? And when you talk about these off-season elections that don't really get that much attention, it's easy for people who are mobilized and radicalized, right, who are mad 24/7. They get up every single day hating Trump, blaming everything wrong in their life on Trump. I guess it's easier for them to get out and to go vote. They're more motivated to vote, more so than people who voted for Trump and are like, all right, well, you know, I'm good. I'm just going to let him do his thing or whatever. I don't know. I'm just hoping that people wake up and realize that, hey, these elections matter. This election matters because the GOP has a slim majority, okay, in the House specifically. And if this seat is flipped, then that's going to be an issue. It's going to be a big issue. We could be looking at Hakeem Jeffries becoming the leader of the House before the midterms, which would be a disaster. So, you know, I think that GOP voters need to wake up and understand that President Trump is doing the things that he promised and that we need to be patient, especially when it comes to the economy. And we can't go 2 steps back, right? We take a step forward. We can't go 2 steps back because we're not getting everything that we want in 8 months, right? I think that we got to realize, okay, we're not getting everything that we want, but the president is trying. He's putting in a good faith effort. Because of that, Democrats are pissed off and they're voting in droves. We got to make sure we get out and vote and stay energized because they're very energized. And we already know what life is like under them. I don't understand why anybody would want to go back to that. That should be enough motivation to get out and vote and to say, hey, we're going to make sure that these people never get into power because we already know what it's like under them. We may not be 100% satisfied with everything that Trump is doing right now, but certainly it's better than where we're at, okay, before. And I hope that's what people understand, and I hope that's what people realize, and I hope that Republican voters, that conservatives get out and vote to make sure radical lunatics like this do not get elected, okay? This race should not be competitive at all. She should get blown out in this race, and I'm hoping and praying that's what happens. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.